Okay, what we're going to do here is try to understand how layers work when you're editing graphics. So let's start with a shark. What we're going to do is we're going to take this shark and we want to put this picture of this good-looking guy inside the shark. Now, there's a number of different ways to do this, but let's start like this. And I'm just going to cut carefully, well, relatively carefully, around the edges. Now, digitally, we can probably do a much better job, but we'll just kind of rough it in right now for the sake of demonstration. Okay, now you can see that by making two layers, it's definitely going to make this simpler. And what we always want to do in graphics, much like what I'm demonstrating here, is have each object on its own layer. It just makes your life a whole lot easier. If you compress and combine layers, things start to get a little bit tricky. So that doesn't quite look right. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut a hole in this shark's mouth and layer it over top. And so you can see that we've got this image, which is still exactly intact. We've got this image which has been cut and removed. And digitally what we'll have to do is apply some transparency so that this actually works. And we'll position it where we want it to be. And then what we'll do is cut the mouth out on this shark. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to cut a big hole on this. So we can be pretty rough with this. Now I'm going to get these teeth cut out a little bit better. Okay. And now, I'll clean this up a little bit. And now if I position this over top, watch what happens. We end up with 3 layers, but we get the kind of image that we actually want. Okay, so there's one more thing that we can do that would spruce this up a little bit. Now, this is actually easier to do digitally than it is here, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. Anyway, I'm going to remove the top layer, and we can do that in Photoshop or the GIMP very easily. We just disable temporarily a layer. So I'm going to put this transparent layer on top, and we can add a transparent layer very easily. And I'm going to draw in a shadow. Now I want that shadow to roughly be in line with the teeth. And so what we can actually do in Photoshop or the GIMP is even with this layer there, we can start to draw, and it will only draw on this selected layer. I can't really simulate that here, but what I'll do is move this up a bit, and I'm going to try and sketch in a bit of a shadow here, roughly in line with where I think those teeth are. And again, this is not easy to demonstrate here, not as easy as it would be using an actual program like the GIMP. All I'm doing is darkening this little area here so that we can sort of simulate a shadow. And you'll see this in the next video, how we actually do this using the software. I haven't really lined the teeth up very well, but whatever. It will be better lined up, again, in the actual demo. And what we can also do that's neat is we can shift that layer. So you can see that that shadow layer really doesn't look very realistic at all. But in the program, we can slide that layer relative to the other layers down. So let's see, we can actually move it back a bit like that, proportionally. And we can also apply some transparency to it. So we end up with a layer that actually looks, could potentially end up looking pretty realistic. So what we've got are 4 layers now. So we ended up with the image that we wanted. We're going to export that. We're going to compress it down into 1 layer and export it. But let's just peel back the layers. So we've got a shark with a large hole in it. We've got a transparent layer that holds the shadow. We've got a scared looking person, and we've got the original image. And again, if we layer those back in, what we end up with is what I'm calling a composite type image. There we go. And if you want to see how to do this using the GIMP, just follow the link to the next video.